Ever stop to think about something a little weird? Why is a bottle of water something you literally need to live, practically free, but a diamond, which is, let's be honest, just a shiny rock, can cost an absolute fortune? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on the market economy and figure out what's really going on with prices.
Yeah, this question is a classic for a reason. It's a real head-scratcher. Water keeps us alive, but it's super cheap. Diamonds, they don't really do much of anything useful, yet they're one of the most expensive things you can buy. So what gives? How does that even make sense?
Turns out, this puzzle actually has a name. Economists call it the paradox of value. It's just a fancy way of describing this bizarre situation where the stuff we need the most has almost no monetary value, while the stuff we don't need at all can be worth a ton. And to crack this paradox, we've got to understand the two big forces that decide every single price. Supply, that's how much of something there is, and demand, that's how much we all want it.
All right, so let's tackle the first half of that puzzle. Demand. It all starts with a really simple idea. Basically, how much joy or satisfaction we get out of something.
In the world of economics, they call this satisfaction utility. You can just think of it as a happiness score. They even have this theoretical unit for it called utils. The more utils something gives you, the more you want it. Simple, right? This is the very first step to figuring out why we value things so differently.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. Our level of satisfaction isn't some flat, constant thing. Think about it. That first bite of a slice of pizza when you're starving, it's amazing, right? But the feeling you get from that 10th bite? Yeah, not so much.
And this feeling, of course, has a name. It's called the law of diminishing marginal utility. Now, it sounds complicated, but it's super straightforward. The more you have of something, the less you enjoy each new one. That first glass of water on a hot day is pure bliss. The fifth one in a row? Meh, you could take it or leave it.
This chart right here shows it perfectly. See that blue line going up? That's your total utility, your overall happiness. It keeps climbing as you get more. But look at the red line. That's the important one. That's your marginal utility. It's the kick of happiness you get from each extra unit. See how it starts way up high and then just plummets? That, my friends, is diminishing marginal utility in action.
Okay, so we've got this idea that our satisfaction fades. So what? Well, now we're going to see how that little psychological quirk turns into real economic behavior. This is the moment where our wants and desires officially crash into price tags, and that's what we call demand.
So you have your own personal demand for something, I have mine. It's all based on our own personal utility. But when you take all of our individual demands and you kind of mash them together, like you see on the screen, you get the big one, the market demand curve. This is basically the collective want for a product from everybody, all at once.
Now, this next part is super important. Demand can change in two totally different ways. If only the price of the item changes, that just causes a movement up or down the demand curve that's already there. But if something else changes, say you get a raise or a new phone suddenly becomes the it thing, the entire curve actually shifts. It's a big difference.
So let's look at a movement. Check this out. If the price of something drops from, say, 70 down to 50, what happens? Well, people are willing to buy more of it. Their fundamental desire for the thing hasn't changed one bit. They're just reacting to a better price. See? We're just moving down along that same curve.
But a shift is a whole different beast. See how the entire orange curve has literally jumped to the right? This means that, for some reason, people now want to buy more of this item at any price. Maybe a famous influencer posted about it, or some new study came out saying it's good for you. Whatever the reason, the basic level of want for this thing has gone up across the board.
And here's a perfect real-world example with something called substitute goods. So on the left, the price of a fort goes up. Naturally, fewer people want to buy one. But hey, people still need cars, right? So what do? They look at other options. And over on the right, you see the demand for a competing car, like an Opel, goes up. Its whole demand curve shifts to the right because it's now a more attractive alternative. Okay, so that's the whole story from the buyer's side. It's all about what we want. But you can't set a price with just one side of the equation. So let's flip this around now and look at it from the seller's point of view. Let's talk about supply.
The logic for sellers is actually pretty straightforward, and it's called the law of supply. It's basically the mirror image of the law of demand. The more money a seller can get for a product, the more of that product they're going to be willing to make and sell. It makes perfect sense, right? Higher prices could mean bigger profits.
And that's why the supply curve almost always slopes up. As the price climbs from, let's say, 40 to 60, sellers get more excited about the opportunity and are willing to put more product out there. It's a direct relationship. You offer more money, you get more stuff.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got buyers, driven by utility and demand, and we've got sellers, driven by profit and supply. So what happens when these two powerful forces finally meet in the marketplace? This is where the magic happens. The exact spot where that supply curve crosses the demand curve that's called equilibrium. And that single point gives us the market price. It is the perfect sweet spot price where the amount of stuff people want to buy is a perfect match for the amount of stuff sellers want to sell.
And why is this point so special? Because everything is in perfect balance. There are no angry customers because shelves are empty, and there are no warehouses full of stuff nobody wants to buy. It's just balanced. Economists have a term for this. They say the market has cleared.
And check this out, this is one of the coolest parts of a healthy market. Everybody gets a little bonus. See that red area? That's called consumer surplus. It's basically a bonus for all the people who are actually willing to pay more for the item, but got it at the cheaper market price. And the blue area? That's the producer surplus, a bonus for all the sellers who would have been willing to sell for less, but got to sell at the higher market price. It's a win-win.
So, this whole model of supply and demand, it's incredibly powerful. And it finally solves our water and diamond paradox. Water has a gigantic supply, so even though we need it badly, the equilibrium price is super low. Diamonds have a tiny, tiny supply, so the equilibrium price is sky high. Boom, solved. But is the real world always this neat and tidy? Or do these rules ever, break? Well, yeah, sometimes they bend in really weird ways. The real world is messy, and economics is packed with these oddball exceptions. Take this graph, for example. It's a backward-bending supply curve of labor. It completely shatters our rule that higher pay always means people will work more. What it suggests is that after you reach a certain income, you might actually start working less, because suddenly having free time becomes more valuable to you than making another dollar. And that brings us to a final thought to leave you with. Now that you know the basic rules of the market, and you know all about that sweet little bonus you get called consumer surplus, think about this for a second. In our modern world, with all this data and technology, how might a company, think about airlines or ride-sharing apps, use all that information and something called dynamic pricing to figure out the absolute maximum price you personally are willing to pay, and then charge you exactly that, capturing all of your surplus for themselves?